What is good, guys? Solgr Only here from Sports Nerd Web. Welcome to this week's episode of Sports Nerd Web Weekly. This week, I'm going to switch it up a little bit and actually get into some sports for most of the episode. A week from today, so it is next Tuesday, the 25th, the Utah Jazz, which, if you don't know, I'm a huge fan of, have been my whole life, so with the Jazz season starting now, I should be getting into some more content surrounding them as well now. So, but yeah, next Tuesday, the 25th, the Jazz have their season opener in Portland against the Trailblazers, and then our home opener is actually 3 days after that on the 28th, and that's Friday, I believe, against the Lakers, which have pretty much been a big rival of the Jazz for most of the franchise's existence. So I'm really interested to see what the Jazz do this year. Last season we almost made it to the playoffs. We were just right on that outside cusp of it. But for once, the Jazz finally made a lot of off-season moves this off-season. It seems like every offseason we normally don't do crap. We normally lose players, and the ones we gain are normally just whatever players we draft. And, we normally don't sign free agents or make trades, or we normally don't do a lot in the offseason. So it was really interesting to see what they did. We ended up getting, we got George Hill, the point guard from the Indiana Pacers. We got Joe Johnson, the veteran small forward. Or forward. He's actually a swing because he actually can be like a smaller power forward. We also got Boris Diaw, which, yeah, he is kind of in the back end of his career. Maybe a step or two. Maybe he's lost a step or two. But Boris Diaw is a really good player. He is an amazing defensive player. Like when he was on Phoenix, especially when he was in San Antonio, he was a Jazz killer too. He's an amazing defensive player, and I think he can still contribute to the Jazz very well. We should also see the return of Dante Exum and Alec Burks. Those two have been hurt a lot the last season or two. One of the players that we did lose Trey Burke. He ended up going to Washington, so he'll be playing with the Wizards this season. So, and as far as the preseason has gone so far, the Jazz are 3-2, which is let's see, that would put them 1, 2, 3, 4. That would put them 6th in the West. Yeah, because in the West in the preseason there was Golden State, Memphis, and Houston were all 4-1, and then that leaves Portland, Phoenix, Utah, Minnesota, and Sacramento. And San Antonio, all at 3-2. The Denver Nuggets were 3-3. Okay, so the Nuggets played 6. So the Jazz must still have another preseason game to go. I can't remember how many games they play in the preseason. It's probably 5 or 6, something like that. But yeah, 3-2, that's all right. I don't really think that the preseason does say something about the season, but I don't think it's everything. If you bomb the preseason and go 0-6, I don't think it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a bad season. It's probably not a good sign, but not really surprised to see Golden State go 4-1. But as far as expectations this season, I never really expected Jazz, obviously, to do much, but our goal every year, obviously, is to just make it into the playoffs. With us just barely missing it last year and the year before. I think the year before we got really close, too. I think we were probably like 9th or something. I know the last few years we've been right there really close to that 8th spot near the end of the season. But this year, with the acquisitions that we were able to get, and we still have Gordon Hayward, so if he can, and Derek Favors too, if those two can play at a high level, along with the additions that we got, George Hill, I think George Hill is is probably going to be. I think I think in my opinion, I think he would probably be the best acquisition that we get out of those new players. I mean, he's a veteran point guard, uh, and he's still he still has quite a few good years ahead of him too. So, I mean, he's not really that old. So, um, I can see him being really good, and that's exactly what the Jazz need. I mean, we've been really stacked in the point guard position the last few years, but all the ones that we have had have always been really young, really, really young. Like, I think the most experienced point guard we had over the last few years, I think it would probably be Trey Burke, and he'd only been in the league maybe 3-4 years tops. So, and the Jazz have always had a young team. So with these acquisitions like George Hill, Boris Diaw, and Joe Johnson, all three of those are veterans. I think Dennis Lindsey did a phenomenal job this postseason, just to make those moves. Whether we do good this year, make the playoffs or not, whether we do or not, I have to give him credit for this offseason because, like I said, the Jazz normally don't do crap in the offseason. So I really like that we actually signed some veterans. I don't know if any of these new players we got. I don't know if any of them were trades or if they were all signings or whatnot. I wasn't really paying too much attention at the time, but that's neither here nor there. So, but I just really like that Dennis Lindsey did this during the off season. So this season is going to be really interesting. I think, in my personal opinion, I'll say it now. I think the Jazz will make the postseason. In my prediction this year, I haven't really put a lot of thought into it, but just a quick thought. I'll say we get in with the I don't know, 7th seed maybe. I don't know. Think we do any higher than that? I don't know. 7th seed at least. I don't know. We'll have to see. And like I said, the season starts next Tuesday at Portland with the home opener a week from this coming Friday on the 28th. So season starts very soon. I want to mention real quick in football news and NFL news, my Atlanta Falcons lost a heartbreaker in Seattle. They were down early in the game, then they came back and were beating them, playing good, and then Seattle scored with, Seattle went up 2 with, I think, just barely under 2 minutes left. So all we had to do was get into field goal range. And the last play of the game, only a few seconds left, 4th and 10. Matt Ryan throws a deep ball. I think it was to Julio Jones. It might have been. I'm not positive. Or it might have been Sanu. It was one of those two. Actually, I think it was Julio because Richard Sherman was on the cover, and he absolutely mauled him. It was blatant pass interference. Even the people calling the game said it was blatant pass interference. Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn was losing his damn mind. But it was a no call. They didn't call it. So Seattle did win by 2. Fuchsia Only's team, the Green Bay Packers, lost as well to the Dallas Cowboys. So it was not this last week was not a good week for our teams. So hopefully next week, hopefully next week our teams can turn around. I'm actually kind of surprised in Green Bay this year. They finally have Jordy Nelson back after missing literally all of last season. He got hurt in the preseason last year and missed all year. So with having him back, I'm kind of surprised to see Green Bay not really playing that well. Aaron Rodgers, I think probably for the first time in his career, he's turning the ball over a lot. And he's actually looking human for once. That guy, easily you can say he's usually, like the best quarterback in the league by far, I would say. But I don't know. I can see them turning around. I'm definitely not going to write them off. I can easily see it. Well, it's going to be interesting in their division. I was going to say I can easily see them making the playoffs, but I don't know, because Minnesota in their division might win that division again, because Minnesota beat Green Bay in the last game last season to win the division and get into the postseason. So I could see Minnesota actually winning that division again. Right now in the NFC South, my Falcons, I believe with that loss, I think that we should still be ahead in the division. Yeah, because New Orleans and Carolina and Tampa Bay, they're not doing that well. So Atlanta at least does have that cushion, but we can't drop the ball. We have to keep playing how we have been this early going in the season. So that's going to be interesting to see, too, whether her team, the Packers, or my team, the Falcons, make it in the postseason. If I would have to say now, though, I would honestly think that my Falcons actually, for once, have a better chance of making the postseason than her Packers, simply just because of the division. Her division right now is more competitive than the NFC South, so just on that alone. Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Real quick, before I wrap this up, in video game news, actually in Destiny news, today is Tuesday, so today was the weekly update, but today is also the 18th. They dropped the heroic mode, Wrath of the Machine Raid. The heroic mode of the Wrath of the Machine Raid. Also coming with this update is also an increase in the max light level. So now your max light level will actually go up to 400 now, and drops from most of the activities that you do. I believe are going to go up to dropping up to like 385 now. I think blues were decrypting at a max of 340, and I think that will move up to like 365 now. I don't know. Stay tuned to the channel for more on this. Probably coming up really soon. In the next episode of Destiny Unplugged, I will dive into this a little more. One thing I will say too, I know I heard today too that artifacts and ghosts should start dropping in Archon's Forge now as well. Bungie said that ghosts and artifacts weren't dropping as often as they intended. That's an exact quote. They said they weren't dropping as much as they intended them to. So for some reason they weren't dropping in places where they wanted it to. So, but now we should get, with this update today, with this patch, I believe it's 2.4.1 if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it is. But with this update, ghosts and artifacts will start dropping in the Archon's Forge, and I think that they will drop up to at least 385. I believe. I'm not sure. I'll have to do my research on this and check back, so don't quote me on any of that. But that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Sports Nerd Web Weekly. Thanks for watching. Sub to the channel. Give me a thumbs up on the video if you like the video. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about some of the topics I went over today. Follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd48. Follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd48. I always tweet when I go live at twitch.tv/Solgr Only. The show I talked about as well, Destiny Unplugged. I will It's not going to be like a show like a specific day, but I am also not going to do it as often as every day. But I will stream that from the Twitch channel as well, so it will be on that. But like I said, follow me on Twitter, SportsNerd48, for all the updates on Sports Nerd Web. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.